RJ, my leads just aren't motivated. I keep having to embrace no because they want full retail. They don't need to sell their house for a discount. Now, I hear this all the time. And here's the thing. Mathematically, it's absolutely impossible that that's a reality. Because this is not just based off of my experience. Now I have Titanium University, the entire community, doing the exact same thing that we do here at Titanium Investments. And so I see certain people going out, they're purchasing their leads from Speed Lead, Property Leads, Leadzolo, and they're closing and funding deals every single day. And then I have certain people that are struggling. So what we find out here is there's no way in the world that you just are so unlucky that every lead that you get, seller's not motivated to sell that property for a discount. So today, we're going to talk about how do you actually know the seller's motivated to sell or not. Now, I've made a couple of videos about which leads you should be purchasing, which ones maybe you should be avoiding. So let's start there. One, go on to Speed of Lead. Let's just say you're one of the budget consumers, right? You're doing Coupon Club. One of the criterias that I want you to pay attention to is literally the seller's motivation. What is the reason why they're claiming they want to sell this property? Now, if they want to say something like sell without showings or downsize or moving from the United States or something like that, it doesn't necessarily scream, I need to sell for a discount. It says emergency reasons, vacant property, tired landlord, financial reasons. Now, these could lend us to the possibility that they need to sell that property for a discount. Okay, so we start there. What's the second thing that I want you guys paying attention to when you're purchasing the properties for Speed of Leads marketplace? The physical distress elements of the property, the condition. So we look at that, and what we're looking for is, does the seller admit that they know the property needs work? It says something like cosmetics. It doesn't necessarily mean that the property needs a full cosmetic rehab like we assume. It could just mean that they know that it needs some paint touch-ups, maybe some new carpet, something along those lines. Not something significant enough to where it's going to make a drastic decrease in the price from retail value. But if we see something that says full remodel, gut job, kitchen, bathrooms, flooring, paint, landscape, these things trigger us to know, alongside with that motivation, that this seller needs to sell for a discount. And then, of course, we pay attention to the location, knowing that we have enough buyers in that location. 2,000, okay? Inside the city or the county. That's what we're looking for. Just to remind you. Even though I've said that hundreds and hundreds of times at this point. Now, we purchase these leads. Now we get on the phone with the sellers. First thing I want to talk about is your introduction. When you go into this, be prepared to have the conversation with the seller. How do you be prepared? One, know how you're going to address them. Do you know how to properly pronounce their name or not? Sometimes it can be a name that you don't know how to pronounce correctly. So instead of trying to pronounce it incorrectly, just say, hey, is the owner of 123 Main Street there? Or, hey, is Jay there? Once they say, yes, this is Jay. Hey, Jay, this is RJ Bates. I was calling about your property there on 123 Main Street. Then tell them how you got their information. This is important, especially if you're getting the lead from Speed to Lead, because they have different ways of getting these leads, whether it's Google SEO, a Facebook lead, or a cold call lead where it'll say they spoke to someone on Speed to Lead's team. So you can say something like, hey, Jay, this is RJ Bates. I was calling about your property there on 123 Main Street. Looked like you spoke to someone on my team about wanting to sell that property. You still need to sell? Or, hey, Jay, Saw you fill out form on my website about selling 123 Main Street. Still need to sell that property? Once they confirm that they do need to still sell their property, awesome. How much are you looking to get for it? What this does is it builds credibility right up front that you're dictating how this conversation is going to go. It also makes your intro a lot smoother. This is one of the things that myself and other TU members have noticed recently when we pay attention to other people's live seller calls, is that your introductions are horrendous. You stumble and bumble, you mispronounce things, you're not attacking it machine-like. So make sure that you have a process early on that it's very repeatable and you do it over and over and over again. Now, let's get to the real nuts and bolts of determining a seller's motivation. Now that you know that they want to sell, you've got an asking price, and then you ask them the next question inside the closer's formula, which is, all right, $100,000. Tell me a little bit about what you got going on. An open-ended question. Now, I talk about open-ended questions all the time, but people struggle with this. They don't really know how to continue a conversation with open-ended questions. It starts with you need to actually listen to what the seller is telling you. At times, when you ask them, tell me a little bit about what's going on, they're going to say something like, well, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,200 square feet, and it needs a little bit of love. That doesn't really tell you a lot in regards to motivation. And for whatever reason, people are afraid to then just come out and kind of steer the conversation in a different direction. If they didn't tell you anything in regards to motivation, and that's what we're really trying to determine at this point in the conversation, flat out ask them, what's got you looking to sell? Why'd you reach out to me? Tell me. I want to know, why do you want to sell the property? It's okay. I give you permission to ask these types of questions. I do it all the time. I thought with the amount of live seller calls that I've shown you guys, and you see me do this, that more of you would pick up on this. But this is an area in which you guys really struggle, because inside the closer's formula, this is where skill has to take over. The ability to listen and then determine what is the next question that I'm going to ask. So tell me a little bit about what's going on. They give you an answer. Here's a metric that I really want you tracking. You need to be asking a follow-up of 4 to 6 additional questions in regards to motivation. Now, this happened the other day inside of TU. One of our members had a question about this very topic. He said, I need help determining motivation. I need to understand a better way to ask open-ended questions. Now, what I've learned in my time of coaching people on how to do real estate investing and how to talk sellers while simultaneously wholesaling and talking to sellers is that they're very much alike. When someone asks me a question like that one, I need help determining what the seller's motivation is, I find myself asking them 5 to 6 questions to really determine what is the question you're actually asking me. And that's the same thing that's going to happen here when you're talking to a seller. Tell me a little bit about what's going on. They're going to give you a response. They're not going to give you the real answer the majority of the time. Every now and then they will. But majority of the time, there's layers to the motivation. So when the TU member asked me this, I just asked an open-ended question. Why do you feel like you need to get better at determining the motivation? Because my experience with this member is he's a very talented individual and very intelligent. So this question that he was asking me was quite shocking. I honestly didn't expect that question from him in particular. So he then goes on to explain what's been going on with some of his conversations and what's been going on inside of his business. And I asked a follow-up question based off of what he said there. And after 3 or 4 follow-up questions, what we determined was it wasn't about finding the seller's true motivation. It was the fact that the last 3 contracts that he had sent out did not get signed. Now, once I found out the true motivation and the reason why he was asking me that question, I could then properly coach him, aka present a solution. The same thing that we're doing as a wholesaler. When we're talking to the seller and we're asking them for the motivation, what we're really trying to do is get to the point where we understand what solution we can present them by purchasing their real estate. So when this gentleman inside of TU finally got to the point of what his true motivation was with his question, which was, hey, I'm sending out contracts and the sellers are ghosting me, a huge pain point for the majority of wholesalers. It wasn't about needing to talk about finding the seller's motivation. It was about talking about reverse rapport. What happens when you set the expectations and you build credibility and you explain your process about sending that contract over and getting it signed and then doing the walkthrough? Are you doing reverse rapport on every single call? And the answer was, no, I'm not. So now I know what solution to give to him. That's the same thing we need to be doing. Now, unfortunately, over the past 15, 16 months, however many it's been, since we introduced the closers formula to the wholesaling industry, a lot of you have clung to embrace no. RJ says it's completely okay for me to embrace no when I'm not talking to a motivated seller. What I did not tell you is that you don't have to continue the conversation and ask questions to determine the motivation. It's once you've determined that there is no motivation. So rewinding and going all the way back through everything that we've discussed today. 1, make sure you're getting the right leads in your system and you're avoiding purchasing the leads kind of already telling you that they're not motivated. 2, have a solid intro to where they don't become skittish and leery about whether or not you're a true professional. Be machine-like in that intro and get to the motivation as quickly as possible. Tell me a little bit about what you got going on. Then get great at actively listening. If you need to pause everything that you've got going on, no more comping and underwriting, no more looking at Google Street View, whatever you need to do to make sure that you are fully embracing the moment of what they are telling you in regards to motivation, listening, and then following up with an additional 4 to 6 open-ended questions. Not a yes or no question, but open-ended. That's really diving deeper into what they're telling you as to why they would want to sell this property for a discount. Now, going back to the math as to how I know it's mathematically impossible that the leads that you're receiving are not motivated and somehow I magically get those only motivated leads. The other day, I went live with 8, 9, 10 different TU members calling sellers. I purchased, was it 6? It was 6 leads. Let me get there. Should have had this ready. I purchased 6 leads from Speed to Lead. I had 4 conversations, 2 contracts. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I hear you guys say that I've purchased 30 leads and 20 of them were not motivated. That is where I look at it and I say there's a broken element inside of your closing process. You're either jumping to embracing no, they're not feeling the vibe at the beginning, or you're not asking enough questions and getting the appropriate answers from these sellers. So I really want you guys, if you're feeling like you're talking to a bunch of unmotivated sellers, really analyze yourself, the questions that you're asking and why you're asking. Doesn't need to be about condition. Doesn't need to be about money. It needs to be about their motivation as to why they need to sell that property for a discount. Diving deep into that and truly listening to what they have to say. The majority of the time, we make assumptions. We make assumptions because we have had hundreds, if not thousands, of conversations. So we think this one is just like that other one we had. Give respect to that seller to be all in during that moment to listen to what they have to say. Because if you do that, you will be more people's solution. You'll be able to close more deals, which should be your ultimate objective. I hope this video helps you guys. This is a massive problem that I've seen where too quickly we're making a decision that a seller is not motivated. So I ask you, I plead with you, please, for the sake of your business, the success of your future, embrace asking open-ended questions and listening and truly determining whether or not seller's motivated. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you give me some love on this video. We'll see you guys tomorrow.